10 minutes at the end, hopefully a little bit more. Any questions that you might have, feel free to hold them until then. We'll kind of go from there. Cool. So this is the run through the agenda today. The first thing I want to kind of start off with before I even jump to the next slide is community. What does community mean to you? And I'd love if anyone wants to shout out and answer what they define community as.
A safe space.
A safe space, yeah.
That's
Nice.
a great answer.
Yeah, great answer.
You know, a place of like-minded individuals who also share a commonality, you know, which we are right now, a community. We all share a commonality of not being just good looking, but Twitch. So, yes.
Yeah.
Say that one more time for me. Yeah, friendly group of people. Yeah, I like that. You all seem very friendly. I like that. Yes.
Be like around the like-minded people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like-minded people.
Like-minded people, yeah. Yeah. Place where you can be yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So, you all know this, but I think the main thing to start with is Twitch is built on community. That's what we were founded on. And every Twitch community is different, just like every streamer is different. And I think that's what makes the platform so unique. Ultimately, understanding who is your audience, who is your community, and I think most importantly, what you're trying to build on the platform. Who do you want to not only be known for as a streamer, but having your community known for as well, is something that's really important. And it's something that I think not everyone may give it the adequate time to think further about. As you think about your streams and as you evolve the content that you create on the platform, how do you also want your community to evolve as well? Or maybe you don't. Maybe you want that community to stay consistent and intact. And these are things to continue to think about as you plan out your content strategies and think more and more of who do I want to be today, tomorrow, later this year, a couple years from now. Right? What do I want to be known for, and what do I want my community to be known for as well? There's a couple of steps you can take here as you walk through this. Examine and update your stream's values. What do they stand for? Right? Who are you? What are you known for? If I were to come into your channel and I had never heard of you before, what are some larger, broader themes that I should be able to pick up on and know right away? Like, hey, Ray Apollo, yeah, I know exactly what they're about. I know what their community is about. And that's the kind of feeling that you want to make sure that viewers who come into your platform and ultimately join your community can understand right on that first few seconds of joining, as they get integrated in, as they find a place of belonging, a safe space, etc. From there, translate your values into rules. When rules are really important, rules are not meant to be restrictive per se. I think it's more to set the expectation of this is what our community is about, and here are rules or guidelines, if you will, that you want to make sure that you're following to not just create a safe space where you can be who you are, be yourself, be respectful, but then also ensure that the values that as a creator that you want to exude, your community is also exuding for you. I think something that you all probably realize is that your community is an extension of who you are. And they are also marketing out your values, not just when they are in your channel, but even when they go to other channels. And whether it's
They said mod.
almost doing marketing or word of mouth marketing for you, people are going to pick up on who you are and what you are known for.
Right. And I would love to add to this that, you know, yeah, you can't control what people in your community do, but what you exude, you know, what the presence you give off is one of my favorite words, influential. And so you kind of get back what you put out. And so, yeah, you're not controlling what they do, but if you're allowing really weird behavior, guess what? There's going to be some really weird behavior. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Cool. And then from there, using the rules to help moderate your channel. Obviously, you have rules that come up when someone joins your chat, but then also just rules that you want to make sure everyone's abiding by. And then the unsung heroes of the platform, in our opinion, the moderators.
Oh, my bad. Yes, moderators. Yeah. I love my mods, all of them.
Yes. Making sure that the moderators are set up with the right kind of knowledge and tools that they need to implement those rules and continue to improve the system itself. So, we define the community. We're going to jump into values and viewers, the two V's. Building your community, it starts with values, right? It starts with understanding who you are, what kind of values do you want in your community, and what do you want people who come to your channel to experience? Right? What should their first few seconds, first few minutes be? What should that actually, how should that experience be defined? And then how do they understand the values that the community is exuding from there? People are looking for meaning, right? We all want to have a place that we feel that we belong. We all want a greater purpose, than what we may have day to day. And being able to focus on that and create something meaningful for people who come and join your community is only going to be so much better. Have the whole community sharing those values, making it very clear to them what do those values actually entail.
Yeah, and so real quick, like when I started building my community, it was more so I was looking for like-minded individuals who enjoy gaming. That was just a start. Then it became, okay, well, actually, in building an online space, it's like, well, if I'm looking for folks that like video games, why can't I just look for more folks that like all the stuff that I like? So then it becomes more of like, well, what, I can now essentially collect this group of people who enjoy the same things that I enjoy, and we can talk about those things at length when we're together and we're all having a good time. And it's just building and building up on that. They're sharing their likes with me, I'm sharing my likes with them, and then, it's just a nice harmonious space of us being a little, what's that word? Community.
So a lot of what I've said has been very kind of like high level, more almost theoretical, if you will. We wanted to make sure that we take some time to translate it into actual tangible examples. So some of these streamers you might have heard of, maybe this is your first time seeing it. Got 3 right up here. Aphrodite, former Twitch ambassador. If you haven't checked out their stream, they are, as the first bullet point indicates, spicy psychic. They would do tarot card reading. They create a place where there's pop culture going on, a mix of tarot with internet culture and entertainer are compassionate. And so when we talked about community here, these are the key phrases, key words, key terms where if someone were to come and experience being on this channel, they're not only going to see that in the content, but they're going to see it in the actual viewers and the community that are there and being a part of it. Next one is Cheats. Very wholesome, very welcoming. A lot of chaotic and funny experiences that happen through her channel. A lot of variety games kind of all across the board, and she loves to meme with her community. I would hope that I think all of us love to meme here. I create memes and Ray all the time.
No memes allowed.
Yep. And then last but not least, it's Timmy, all about the competition and the hype. And these 3 are probably great examples because they go across the spectrum in various ways. Non-gaming interests are like music festivals with friends, and so that's also going to attract a bit of individuals in the community that may also be like-minded and be very much into music festivals as well. FPS games, sticking with the competition and the hype, and fun and positive attitude overall. And I think what you're also going to recognize is that, as we mentioned, communities are all very unique. You as streamers are also very unique, but you might share some similar overlap in terms of shared values, whether it's you have a fun and positive attitude, whether it is that you create memes, you're welcoming, different things like that. And don't let that dissuade you from thinking, well, sounds very similar to other streamers. I don't know what is my value difference here. You're unique. Think about it. Take the time to really think about what kind of community do you have, what kind of community do you want to continue to have. And at the same time, I think don't be afraid to even ask your community members. Right? This doesn't have to be just a one-way street where you're the only one who's trying to figure that out. As you further carve out the kind of community you have, you can ask them, hey, thanks so much for joining. What do you love about my stream? I just wanted to chat with y'all. What do you love most about it? What brings you back? What keeps you coming back? Because I want to make sure I keep doing that for you.
And that can change too. So because we'll have different folks from different parts of the internet come and be a part of your community. Like, well, if one person loves how you play video games, another person can be like, well, actually, I just really enjoy the conversations you have, and that's fine. Because then you're like building different levels of community. Because you don't have to be just one form of community. You have multiple.
And to Ray's point, that also, as you seek out some answers and maybe even to some extent some guidance, that's also going to help you community aside from a content strategy standpoint. You start to understand that more and more of your community really enjoys having like fireside chats with you or more intimate type of chats before you hop into a game or start doing something else on stream. That'll help impact the way that you strategize your content moving forward as well. So let's dig into the chat for each of these streamers here. Aphrodite created a community that he himself describes as, quote, their personal diary, end quote. You can see some of the examples in the chat here. I made Ray sit there and take screenshots of all these chats, so thank you, Ray, for going through and taking all these screenshots.
Yes, Anish, who is Daddy?
We're not going to go into that. Let's go back to community and shared values. So his community shares their lives and their passion over hot pop culture topics. Most importantly, raw honesty and compassion with each other. And what you're seeing here is that in the previous slide, we took kind of high-level, macro, if you will, examples or themes for a community. And this also helps you understand that under, I'll call it that, those umbrella terms, if you will. When you dig deep into it, what are the individuals that are in the community doing? Right? How are they exuding the shared values? And what does that further mean here? So this space is I'll call it a safe space, if you will, where people can be very raw and honest and compassionate with one another. And that further feeds into the kind of community that Aphrodite is providing and exuding through his streams. Go to Cheebs here. Again, Cheebs community, wholesome, supportive, full of hype. I love the Shy Guy one on the top left chat there. Shout out to Shy Guy, one of the best Mario characters. Don't agree with me? Let's have a debate after this.
No, we're not.
Yeah. Her community gives plenty of reassurance and words of encouragement, always super supportive. You know, and then obviously don't forget the memes here. You're not going to see the memes in chat per se, but I guarantee you there's a Shy Guy meme. I'm sure that exists somewhere.
Sure.
Yeah. Awesome. And of course, you think about community, you don't need to be someone that's not you, right? I think at the end of the day, something that should be shared, in my opinion, across every single content creator out there is to be as authentic as possible, right? Be you. Wherever that is, whatever kind of content you're creating, however it can come out, you just gotta make sure that you're being you. And you yourself are going to have your own values that are gonna come out and ultimately feed into your stream and into your community as well.
Yeah, and this genuinely is one of the easiest and hardest concepts of being, I think, a creator in general, is being you. I've heard so many times, oh, I'm not interesting, or I'm not entertaining enough. Well, I'm like, why would you say that about yourself if you're trying to build a community? I mean, you have very, very interesting things about yourself. And you have something that people would absolutely be interested in. You just have to give them a chance to experience that. I mean, maybe you're really good at teaching people about something. Maybe you're really good at talking about a specific topic. You can be good at playing a video game, but that's not the end of it. I see folks do all kinds of things on the internet, and if there are some folks out there who are successful, which by some means I don't understand why, you can absolutely do it. So just give yourself the chance to want to put yourself out there and build that community upon things that you enjoy.
Yeah, and I think something I want to touch on here before we go to the next slide, I love this word here in the second paragraph, experiment. Right? Follow your passions, but experiment with your content. I think something that I'd love to see more and more content creators do is, as you're trying new things, dig into the data. Right? A lot of you might already be doing this, but take a look at the data, seek an understanding of what's working, what's not working, and then also having, again, that open dialogue with members of your community. What do they like, what do they not like, etc. And that's ultimately going to help feed into future content strategies as well. Cool. On to the third larger topic here, creating rules. So rules don't need to necessarily be this, do this, don't do that, right? We don't need to make it this kind of plain type of experience. It can really be an extension of your values and ultimately something that is going to feed into who is our community and how do they operate for the new viewers that come into your channel. So rules can be a quick way to give viewers information about your values. A lot of these rules you might see are shared or similar with on your channel, or you've seen them if you visited other channels as well. But it's also an opportunity to have unique rules that are special for your channel and help set the stage for, as a new viewer comes in, what is that first experience? What should they know about you when they pop into chat, right? Rules are made to be followed, not broken. So your channel's rules are totally up to you. However, be sure to enforce your rules. And this is where then the unsung heroes, the moderators, will come in and be able to make sure that the rules are not only followed and enforced, but also it's an opportunity to educate individuals on rules. Right? Why was that rule maybe broken? You can take that to like a private message there, and just a friendly kind of shout out and reminder of the rules and why they exist. Anything you want to add about rules, Ray?
So, I mean, your community is your community, and the rules that you build are there to also protect your community from energy that you don't feel contributes to your community. And what I really encourage folks to do is understand that this is your space. The rules that you set are the rules that you set. And if somebody comes in and is breaking those blatantly, they don't want to be a part of that community and are trying to harm your community blatantly. And so remove them, because you set those rules for a reason. You didn't just put them there. And I also love that, in the previous slide you can see that, we have that now where when you go to chat for the first time in a chat you've never been in, those rules pop up. So they have no excuse, because now they've agreed that they read those essentially when they came into your chat. So, I have rules like that I made a long time ago, because it just, no spoilers, real or fake. Because if I'm experiencing something, I don't want it ruined, even if it's a fake one, because, that's not fun for us. If somebody comes in and ruins a part of a game that we're really enjoying. So I don't tolerate fake or real spoilers just because of that. So it's just an example I have.
And Ray, you love anime as well.
Oh, big time.
So spoilers is a big part of, if you haven't seen an anime episode.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason why we have that rule.
Awesome. Rules are also going to help you discourage negative behavior, which is ultimately what we want to, as a few folks in the audience called out from the early definition of community, creating a safe space, creating a place of belonging, creating a place where people know how to respect one another as well. So 3 key areas, obviously, that I want to highlight here. Don't feed the trolls. Explain your actions, and when in doubt, report it. Trolls, unfortunately, they exist on the internet. It's a very common place to see that kind of experience. But I would say the vast majority of trolls ultimately are just looking to elicit a response, right, or get a response. If you don't feed into that, typically that behavior gets discouraged on its own most of the time. Obviously not always, but most of the time. Explaining your actions, teaching the individuals as far as the rule breakers, why they broke the rule or how they broke the rule. I think a lot of rules are going to make sense completely in terms of don't do this, but there might be some other rules out there that individuals may not realize why they broke it or how they broke it. Mm-hmm. And it's an opportunity to educate your viewers, especially if they're joining your community or maybe they've been a part of your community for a long time, but then they ended up breaching a rule or not respecting someone else.
Right. And I will say, as important as that is to explain some rules if it seems like they're a little more complicated. You don't always have to explain yourself. If somebody is blatantly breaking one of your rules or making you feel uncomfortable, like the first one says, don't hesitate, just ban them. That's one person. Because if you're uncomfortable, that's probably a lot of people in chat who are also uncomfortable, and you don't want that for your community.
I learned actually from experience that if you have a community member that's actually making you uncomfortable, there's a 99% chance they're actually fishy, to put it that way. Yeah, like...
I don't know if you hear that, but yeah, he said basically, if somebody's making you uncomfortable, essentially, there definitely is somebody else who is uncomfortable and being made uncomfortable by that person. So.
And last but not least, when in doubt, report it. Every report is reviewed by a human being here. It's not automated. Just want to make sure that part's also clear. And sometimes, naturally you're going to have the rules in your channel, and those rules may not necessarily be rules that are Twitch guideline related or TOS related, but regardless, if you ever see behavior that is just not an experience that you want individuals to have on the platform, definitely encourage you to report it. We talked about negative, let's talk about positive though, because there is positive behavior we want to promote. Lead by example, shout out your model members, and highlight hype moments. Leading by example, at the end of the day, this is your community, and when you think about the kind of values that you want to exude and the kind of community that you want to create, you are at the forefront of leading the way in that. Right? You will have followers, evangelists, if you will, who are going to continue to promote those values in your community, but you're ultimately the one creating it, and you're leading it. And so lead by example. Shout out model members. This is something where I've seen various streamers kind of take this and do it in their own way, but giving a shout out to positive behavior, I think, is very crucial. Often, any kind of negative behavior or experience we may latch onto and want to talk about or give feedback on, right? And I mean this not just on Twitch, but even in general, even like in a workplace setting, But something we don't do enough of is actually call out or shout out the positive behavior when someone did something really well, right? If someone, we talked about educating someone who might break the rule, that might not be you who's educating them, it might be someone in your community that ends up educating them in chat. Shout out that behavior, not just about correcting someone who maybe said something they shouldn't have, but also the fact that they're trying to promote the value that you want for the community. And so the model members are huge there, and we say model members, but obviously you can use any kind of phrase that you want. I think of it almost very similar to, from the Twitch side, one of the biggest things that we founded the Twitch Ambassador Program on is we wanted model representatives of Twitch from the streamer standpoint. And so I'm not saying you need to go and create your own ambassador program per se, but it could be something you think about in terms of, I have my channel, I have my community, what are ways I can recognize the positive behavior of model members, and even in that way, maybe entice people to do more positive behavior. Maybe even gamify it, if it makes sense for your channel.
Yeah, I mean, this could be as simple as literally just saying thank you. Just acknowledging somebody and saying thank you for being a part of the community. I feel like don't feel like you have to go into some above and beyond sort of way to say, here are the positive members of my community. Just saying thank you goes a long way.
Yep. And highlighting hype moments, obviously when something amazing is going on, you saw the shy guy, you're gonna have tons of really cool emotes. It might even be a great idea to think about, is there a specific emote that I have or that I could upload that further promotes good behavior? Or maybe is a way to shout out positive behavior as well. Maybe you have one that actually ended up, well, that might not have been the original intention, but ended up becoming that way through your community. Maybe you don't quite yet, and that could be something that you think more about as well. Last part of the presentation here, moderation breakdown. Some of this material might be familiar to you all, but want to make sure we either give you a refresher or hopefully have you walk away learning at least something new from the moderation tool standpoint. So why does moderation matter? If you look at from the, I really like this, Ray, what would you call it? The colored bar, I don't know what the right word would be.
I would say no, I can't see that. Nope. What?
I really like this color scheme. How about that? I think that.
Yes, let's go with that.
We'll go with the color scheme.
The road of colors.
Yes, the multitude of colors. Moderation, it's daily work for building a community, not just calling out any negative behavior, but also promoting positive behavior. Moderation keeps your stream safe for everyone, makes chat more engaged, helps you keep viewers coming back to experience your community. Ultimately, it goes back to, at the end of the day, your community, who they are, what they're known for, what is the kind of behavior that you want them to exemplify, and what is the behavior that you don't want them to be partaking in. I'll hold it here just because, again, we called out kind of the color spectrum here, but want to give everyone a chance to take a look at some of the key themes because they fit into some of the other stuff that we're talking about in the presentation. Picking VIPs or model citizens, right? Organizing giveaways. It's different ideas for ways in which, again, you can promote positive behavior and curtail or reduce negative behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Mods are obviously your support system. They are going to be, I'll call them kind of a frontline defense, if you will, of continuing to hold anyone accountable if they do break any of the rules or do something they shouldn't do, but then also promoting the positive behavior. They are also role models of your community, and mods can also help with special skills like video editing, stream tasks, running ads, etc., whatever it might be. They're not going to be just moderating the channel only, but obviously it is your channel. You know best how you want the mods to be doing whatever they do, and whether it's additional roles and responsibilities or just focusing on moderating. Right? You're going to know even better than any of us because it's your channel and it's your community. Building a mod team. These are some of the best recommendations that we can make in terms of when you think about who should be a moderator, or if you even evaluate your current moderators, what are different themes or characteristics that you would want from those members of the community? You trust them, they embody your community's values, they actively engage in chat and Discord, patient, work well with others, they want to interact with individuals, want to have those conversations, consistent, dedicated. They want to help build your stream and your community. They understand your community and the values. We have an optional one at the bottom because, again, we don't want folks to think about moderators as just single-sided, they can only do X. These are human beings that probably have a wide array of talents.
Yeah, and so I don't think I could like verbally tell you how important it is to choose your mods properly. I've seen it happen so many times where people who choose folks who at first seemed trustworthy can do damage to a community just based on not having spent enough time vetting folks that you give this power to in your channel, into your community really. Your mod, as this says, these are people that you should trust because these are genuinely the leaders of your community alongside you. As you build this community, you want to make sure they're people that make other people in your community feel safe and are even willing to talk to you if there's something going on that is making them feel unsafe, while you, the streamer, is still actively doing what they're doing. I've seen some situations in the past where you want to make sure that you and your mods have a good enough rapport that they can tell you things that might be uncomfortable, but you can also say the same to them when it comes to protecting and maintaining your community.
Communication is key. 3 themes here: set up mod meetings, use your mods as a resource, and support your mods. Setting up mod meetings, to Ray's point about making sure that you take the time to identify and pick the right mod members from your community. Setting up meetings, and I think treating it as a way, this doesn't need to be necessarily a weekly thing per se, but I think some sort of regular ongoing conversation easily happen on Discord, for example, even like a private room, of having a meeting of understanding from them, hey, what's your feedback? Right? You heard me a little bit earlier talking about engaging with your community, soliciting feedback or obtaining feedback from them. Moderators, I think, will provide a different level of feedback and a different perspective, and they'll be able to call out things that might have happened on your stream and past streams that you maybe didn't even know. Not negative per se, but very positive as well. It's a great way to just continue getting more of a, I'll call it a 360 view, so that the more information that you get, the better you will be able to guide or be guided in the direction that you want to further fulfill the community values on the platform.
Yeah, for example, I have a Discord just for my mods where we can just talk to each other. So that way we're aware of that. I like to try and keep them as much in the loop as I can when it comes to stuff that I'm doing on stream or things that I've seen happen in stream, but that's also the place that they talk to each other, which I truly encourage. I'm like, well, we're all doing this together, so I would hope that they knew each other and could also feel comfortable with one another. So I feel like having more of you don't even have to have like a set presence, but like even a passive form of communication with your mods is much better than nothing. Because you want to make sure that they're comfortable too. Because again, they are almost essential. I don't even want to say almost. They are necessary for every good community, honestly. And so if your mods are feeling supported, I feel like you have a very solid foundation.
Yeah, I would say they make or break the community to that point. And so supporting your mods, this can be through a wide variety of ways, but quite honestly, and I think especially because we're all human beings, just feeling heard. Right? Moderators, I think, especially as human beings, just want to make sure that they're feeling heard. And whether it's through a meeting, brainstorm idea, soliciting feedback, just creating an environment where moderators are feeling valued for the work that they're doing, and then also empowered to be able to do that work and continue doing it. Cool. Let's talk a bit about working with moderators. And I said empower, perfect, segue to this slide here. Once you have a superstar team of mods, empower them to help you. What are ways we can actually empower them? Well, you can give them editor permissions for your channel, give them a wide variety of permissions, so long as you obviously trust them and they've built a rapport with you, that they are members of the community that you want to continue giving this additional access on your channel too. Authority to ban timeout users, and we say that from the standpoint of they are an extension of you and your community and your values. And so you want to make sure that you trust that they can go and uphold those values and make the calls that you would have made as well. Build your program chatbot commands and the authority to vet your guest star guests before they go live on your stream. We call out guest star especially because that is one of those opportunities where you'll have other people coming on stream with you. It could be other streamers, it could be members of your community, and that's a chance where you could go and do your due diligence to try to vet them a bit, but the moderators will have additional tools to be able to dig deeper and be able to vet them even more. And on that, we're going to switch over to Guest Store. Some of you might have heard of Guest Store. If by chance you have not, it's a great new tool that makes it easy, safe, and fun to be able to bring up to 5 other Twitch users on the platform on the stream live with you. Some of you might use third-party tools, most likely Discord, if you use something similar. At the end of the day, this is just an additional tool to help you on the platform. It's not something you have to use. It's something we definitely encourage that you try out, along with all the other tools that we have. But this might be something that not only fits in well in terms of continuing to solidify your community, be even closer with them, get those values, continue to be upheld, especially on stream, but also I think at the same time, to some extent, you think of it as a way to even reward your community members, right? We talked about recognizing mods or promoting like model citizens. Maybe this could be a thing where you think about, hey, you know what, once a month, once a week, I'm gonna have a guest star type of setup where I'm gonna bring members of my community who I know have been promoting good behavior, and this will be a way to reward them and continue to reward positive behavior. It could be a way to gamify it. Or maybe on the opposite end, an idea like that doesn't make sense for your stream, and that's okay too. Right? I think the idea is also going back to what we called earlier of experimenting. Try out new things. Don't be afraid to try something out. And I don't think of it as you've ever failed if it doesn't work out in a way that you wanted it to. It just means that you have some learnings, and that's going to continue to be applied moving forward for all your future streams. And let's put it all together. Hyping your stream, engaging chat, promote socials, automated chat filtering, creating viewers and fostering community, clarifying the rules, promoting sponsors, informing and answering chat, and building good behavior. These are all themes that fit into building a community, and these are not expectations that you need to put on just yourself. These are expectations that you put on the entire community. Right? They are going to be effectively working on your behalf to continue to educate and create a place where everyone who wants to be a part of that community is welcome and involved. And with that, I want to make sure we save some time for questions here. So thank you all for sitting around, sticking around, listening to us. The mics are open. Please feel free to go up. If you do have a question, you're welcome to ask in English or French. We have a translation here for French as well. Yeah, if you feel comfortable, feel free to head on up. We've got plenty of time, so please feel free to head to the mic. Sorry, 1 second. If we can get the mic turned on. Try now.
C'est bon. Moi, j'aurais une question par rapport à la modération. Si quelqu'un a envie de faire la modération sur un stream, comment vous donnerez des conseils pour lui donner envie d'apprendre et soutenir entre guillemets les streamers? Quels sont vos conseils?
So basically, what advice would we give to folks who want to encourage their mods to learn more about moderating?
Okay, good question. That's a good question. To learn more about moderating, so I think one of the best teachers is going to be learning from others. And so if they, for example, are not a part of their own moderators head community, I think the best thing is to maybe go on and watch other moderators on other streams, maybe even some streams where it might be similar type of content to what you're doing, or there's a bigger viewership, and so there's more of a need for moderators to act. That would be kind of the answer for me off the top of my head. Right?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because actually I'm working on a whole new moderation path on the career kit, where we are actually going to be focusing on education for moderators specifically, because I noticed that we had a gap in knowledge when it came to Twitch, and it was that we weren't giving much education about being a moderator to moderators. So that's something that we're working on. I would love to be able to give you a date on when it's going to launch, but I would say within the year.
And besides that, I mean, I think something to always call out is the internet has a wealth of information. And so whether it's articles online, a YouTube video, anything like that, there's ways for moderators to continue to learn and be empowered to learn the role itself. And we called out a little bit earlier the idea of having recurring meetings or check-ins with your moderators, and that can also be an opportunity to check in with them and say, hey, I love to think about questions that elicit not just an answer, but it puts that person in a position where they have to think a bit deeper. So if you ask a more open-ended question such as, hey, what's something new that you learned in the past week that you're going to apply to the moderator role on the channel? I'd love to hear it. Right? What has that experience been like? And that's a way for them to dig in a bit deeper to some extent, I think, put it on themselves that, hey, I need to continue to learn and find information, and maybe I need to let my friends or people know that I need more info, and what are resources that they could point me to, or how do they even learn from that perspective? And the last thought that comes to mind, and this one's obviously going to be a bit trickier. It's easier in a virtual world and Discord and whatnot, but if your moderator happens to be coming to TwitchCon or the convention that you're at, or even a smaller in-person community meetup, it's a good chance for them to know and learn from others as well. And it doesn't have to be other moderators, it could be even from other streamers or other fans as well. Just having those ongoing conversations and creating an environment where moderators are hungry and want to keep learning and want to keep getting better is only going to help them get better.
Yeah. And also I would add encouragement to learn.
Moi, j'avais pensé, par exemple, sur un stream en n'importe qui, sur un Discord, faire une petite session d'un stream, d'une soirée, par exemple, et voir comment il se déroule, comment il fait les choses, comment il rôle sur un ban ou sur le message, pourquoi il explique, etc. Je pense que ça serait peut-être plus instructif que faire peut-être après une vidéo par la suite. Votre application que vous comptez peut-être le faire, mais ça serait vachement intéressant, pourquoi pas par la suite, de faire ça, soit sur je sais pas, sur différentes sessions, sur différents jours, un événement précis, par exemple, sur différents streams, ça serait par exemple cibler la modération, expliquer les choses correctement à différentes personnes qui sont sur Internet ou sur Twitch.
Absolutely, and that is the goal. We want to make sure that we are building a space and a place for folks to help understand more about the role of moderation, but also the actions of moderation, which I feel like is going to be really important as well. So, yeah, thank you.
And Ray, can you say the question in English?
Basically, it was more so the fact is like, yeah, we're looking forward to finding space and place for moderators to see how certain actions are taken and the rationale behind them as moderators.
Yeah, can I?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have one question. How can we help people become confident on becoming moderators?
So a really good question. You know, and I would also say it's a hard one because it's volunteer. You know, and mods aren't required to be mods. It's just, I feel like there are times where you can also not be afraid to ask. I remember asking folks in the beginning, it's like, hey, would you like to be a mod? Because I need some help. You know, it's asking that question is, I wouldn't say easy, but also is something that you shouldn't be afraid to do as a creator. If you see somebody who you're like, you think you can, somebody you've seen in chat, somebody who you know, usually that's two separate instances. So if you see somebody in chat who's been, you know, a great contributor to the community, and you're like, okay, I think they might be a great mod, that's the time to ask them. And then, or if you have somebody you know, because that's how it started for me. I had somebody I knew, and I was like, hey, would you be a mod in my chat for me? Because more so it's like, I trust you, and if anything happened, I could find you. So you understand? But other than that, yeah, I just don't expect people to be moderators, but also be willing to ask them.
All right, thank you.
No, I need it.
You need it?
I need
Okay.
it.
That's good.
Bonjour, ma question était, c'est possible de créer des grades, genre pour les followers, ça les encourage peut-être à appliquer les règles et à les motiver petit à petit jusqu'à atteindre le poste de modérateur en fait. Avant, peut-être que c'est pas des postes qui sont proposés par Twitch ou sur la plateforme comme modérateur, mais c'est des choses qu'on peut, nous, comme en tant que streamer, les mettre en place pour motiver les gens à suivre nos règles et voilà, à se motiver petit à petit jusqu'à atteindre le poste de modérateur.
So the question is, basically, is there a way for us to have a tiered system that would encourage and celebrate folks in the community who helped take steps to protect the community? So it's similar to like, so they're not a moderator, but it's more like a tiered of like, hey, you know, this person has helped do X, Y, and Z, and there's a way to like recognize and show that. Does that sound about right?
Oui, c'est plutôt ça, mais par rapport aux actes que font les followers, en fait, par exemple, je dis n'importe quoi, le followers X, aujourd'hui, il a regardé 2 heures, il a répondu à des questions d'autres followers que peut-être nous, on n'a pas vu dans le chat, du coup, il a gagné des points, du coup, blablabla.
Oh, so kind of like, you know, showing somebody who is in chat taking actions like, you know, you would be able to set the action of, hey, they were answering questions in chat that were important to the stream. They were kind of like maybe calling out bad behavior, and they could like earn their way up until like, I guess what would be seen as a moderator position that you could then approve potentially as a streamer. Actually, I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. I think if you're looking at it from a product level, we don't have that today.
Not currently.
So I definitely encourage you to submit that feedback on user voice. I think it's uservoice.twitch.com or .tv.
I think it's .tv, but if it's .com, it'll tell you.
Yeah, it's the best place to be able to contribute to ideas for future products that could be taken into account. I think bearing that in mind, because there isn't something built out on Twitch, you probably want to look at something third party, whether it's something built into Discord or something else. I think what you're not going to get is some sort of like system or even leaderboard, if you will, on the platform itself. But that could be something like Discord, and it could be something that maybe you can create a almost like leveling system, if you will, or EXP, where each time they kind of contribute or do something, it's rewarded. I think it's a great idea. That could be something that could be really cool on the platform. But for now, that'd probably be something third party that you do. And to that point, I think that something that could really work well, and this is in line with the first question that was asked of how do you give kind of like best practices to mods or help them learn? That could be something where as that individual works their way up and maybe they qualify for being a moderator, you put them through a boot camp or like a learning experience before they formally become a moderator. And maybe your mods or existing mods can teach them, right? And that could be another additional criteria of, hey, you've qualified, if you're serious about this, you just got to make sure you go through this quick little learning as well. But yeah, ultimately not something built out on the platform today, but I think through third party, that could be pretty feasible.
I'm taking notes because that was good. Thank you very much.
En fait, c'est quelque chose que je fais à part, mais c'est juste, là aujourd'hui, je viens tout juste de commencer, j'ai 80 personnes qui me suivent avec maximum 7 par live. Je le fais à côté. Ah oui, il a fait une bonne remarque, mais imaginez si quelqu'un a des milliers de vues ou des followers, elle va pas faire ça à côté sur un programme qu'elle a développé toute seule. C'est vraiment possible.
It's a great thought, so thank you. So basically it was like, this is something that he's been trying to, you know, practice and do within his community, which he just thinks that it's a really good idea, and I do too. So.
Hi, so I've got a community, so like my community is based around like safe space and stuff, and talking about like neurodivergency and stuff like that. The question that I have is, when it comes to like off stream a little bit, how you would navigate, because obviously with autism, ADHD, each people have like their own needs and stuff. So even though like from an outside perspective, you've created this really wholesome experience where everyone is welcome, it creates a lot of infighting among like discord between ADHD, autism, and also neurotypicals as well, who don't understand why you're giving one group more leeway than the other. And that's my question. How would you navigate that?
That's tough.
You're telling me. I'm putting out fires over here.
And I mean, I feel like this is a good opportunity for you to empower moderators. to help you in that, mostly because there is a lot that goes into trying to manage different expectations of folks, but also it's making sure that your expectations are also being met, because at the end of the day, you are the community lead. You're the leader of this community. And I feel like when it comes down to it, if you are being put in a situation where you're having to consistently, get in between things in your community, there might be a time for an actual conversation with the community at large. It's like, hey, I'm one person. I'm a person. We are all people, and we got to figure this out. You know. So I don't really have like a solid like this is exactly what you can do, which I'm sorry about. But it's more so I would kind of put it back on them, ask them questions. It's like, hey, why do we feel like we have to do this here with each other in our safe space, making it unsafe for each other, and kind of, I don't know, maybe get to the heart of it of like, yes, we can all be here and we can all have a good time, but we can also we all have things that keep us going, but also have things that really kind of set us off sometimes. So I just want to make sure I would ask them, what can I do to help kind of keep the peace? So ask them questions, see what happens.
Hi, I kind of want to go back to some of the views we shared about helping moderators do what they do and grow. And I was thinking, would it be possible to have like a kind of junior moderator role where you can see easily what they did during your stream, kind of the reason the message they send, the same way you have when you ban someone, you can see what they said during the stream, why they were banned, and maybe give them less power overall, and be able to see, okay, I think they did really well, and I kind of want to give them the full power of moderation on my channel.
It's another good one for user voice.
Yeah, definitely another good one for user voice. Whenever you get a chance, like even later this week, please do submit it. I would say, so we don't have that today, right, as students. This isn't necessarily the best alternative, but an idea that comes to mind is you give them kind of a trial period where obviously they're going to have the full mod tools, but whether it's a week, whether it's a few days, a trial period, if you will, and then go from there as a chance to see, okay, how do they handle it? Did they do things well? Was this the kind of behavior and action taken that we want from a moderator? I know it's not the same thing as what you're asking, which makes total sense, but that's probably the closest thing you could do for now.
Yeah, definitely.
You guys have given me a lot of notes today, so thanks. I'm taking more notes. Thank you very much.
Hope you have more paper.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
We've seen over the past couple of years a large number of trials and community things that either only pushed out to partners or very specific communities, and they either go nowhere. And things like the channel, for example, this was, in a couple of channels, it was massive, and everyone wanted it, and suddenly it just disappeared. It went with no communication. There was no communication that it was out there in the first place, and then there was no communication that actually it had been dropped. While other things, like the shield, which is creating havoc, because I'll start and suddenly the shield will just start, and no one can chat in my channel for no reason because no one switched it on. So technologically there's inconsistencies and no communication. How, as smaller streamers, can we hook better into that? Because there is no forum for us to say, let me have a go at this because I know it will help my channel, or can you not put this in? Hosts were another one. Adverts are killing me at the moment because I'm a family streamer. I'm getting horror adverts in my channel and I can't switch them off. I can't choose these things which are going against my community and against my values because Amazon is pushing them onto us without any say as to what my channel should be. I have a duty as a streamer to protect the people who are in my channel. Some of those have PTSD, so horror films and things like that are not what I want to see. And I get complaints in my channel for that, so I'm going on. I'm just going to stop that.
No, and that's okay, and I really appreciate you, like, you know, because it is important. It's what we talked about. You know, you're there to protect your community as well. And I mean, unfortunately, right now, I know we don't have some of the tools available to do those things that would make it more, that would give you more control of that. You know what I'm saying? But we do have, like, User Voice is the place where you can go and give that feedback, and then you can also encourage other people in the community to go and upvote and comment on that feedback to give it the traction that it deserves. And I'm sure there's already a few, like speaking of some, like of the things you just listed, there are a few of those already on User Voice. And I know that for a fact because I've told other people the exact same thing, and they went and did it. And so I feel like this is a case where it's a matter of time. I think personally, it's a matter of time. You know.
I used User Voice and I'd given a bunch of suggestions that I thought realistically could be implemented, technologically could be implemented fairly easily. My User Voice thing got downgraded and bumped under someone else's similar thing, but didn't go into it. Theirs were just a rant. So my User Voice and my suggestions were completely lost at that point.
I wouldn't say that, because I mean, the fact that it was moved means that somebody did see it. So I would say that. I'm sure that somebody did see it, and there's a chance that something is happening. But what you did mention, the things earlier, those are also experiments, so they weren't official. You know what I'm saying? In that regard, but there were some things that were sunset that the information came out later. I do know that for a fact we talk about a lot of these things on patch notes, which, you know, time zone difference does make it hard, but we do that. And now we are actually putting patch notes. I love to make this joke. We're putting out the patch notes of patch notes, which is a written update of everything that we talk about on patch notes, which is where we talk about those things, like those experiments, when they're happening, when they're sunsetting, the reasons why we decided not to move forward with them. And we bring the people who are building them onto the show to talk about what they're doing and why they're doing things that they do. So we do have an app. We are working on avenues where you can get more information about that, for sure.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next one.
Any more questions? I mean, we got time for like a few more, or I can have Anish sing the song.
You don't want to hear me sing, trust me.
See how fast they got up?
Then I'm free after this. I'm free after this.
Yes, maybe just a quick comment on the moderation topic we were talking about earlier. It comes from my experience as part of the moderator team, and one thing that's been invaluable to me is having a more senior moderator that I can turn to be like, should I do this, or how should I do this? Just that in terms of educating, bringing in someone new to a moderator team is something that can be easily put in place by a streamer, and that really helps someone get on board.
So, let me see. So, what you're saying is, like, are you looking for a more senior moderator, or how you can find one, or would it be something you're like a more senior moderator role that you give to someone?
I wouldn't say there's something that needs to be like technologically put in place. Like you have some moderators that are part of your team already. Someone who new comes in, you can turn to them and educate himself by talking to them and being like, what should I do?
Right. And I feel like that's the deal we talked earlier. It's just kind of encouraging them to talk amongst themselves. But I feel like that's not something you should assume that they're just going to do. That's also a part of responsibility on us, the streamer, to encourage them to do that. So it's just kind of like, hey, this moderator here, he's been around for, since I've been streaming, and I would love if you would teach them the ropes, essentially. And it's more about asking and never assuming, really. Because I'll also be honest, like I have gone into other chats with other streamers that I know that I see their mods that I really respect, and I won't hesitate to ask them questions. It's like, hey, you got a question about moderator stuff, and So more times than not, they're very excited to answer my question. So don't be afraid to ask.
I'll add to that point. If you have friends that are streamers, getting the mods to connect or being able to talk to them is going to be a huge benefit too. And this may not really be out there, or maybe it is, but if you, for example, have someone in your moderation team that you do consider a bit more senior, have them market those skills up. Right? It could be a course that they create, that they start kind of doing their own consulting as well. They can make kind of a side money or side hustle there. Yeah. And then have them talk to Ray and guide the moderation track. And I'm making your life easier for you, Ray, so, you know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm looking out for you. Okay.
Hello. My question is, because we were talking about it, that when you have a community, the people are coming to your stream, they are talking about their lives, they are sharing their personal stuff, and you are also, as a streamer, sharing your life to some point. And how to create healthy boundaries between, yes, having like friends in your streams, but also setting the boundary that, yeah, we can share some stuff, but to some point, we don't talk about like other stuff, because I had experienced that on my streams. I had the people which, for example, on the Discord, they were sharing with me really personal stuff where I didn't know how to react if someone will harm themselves, for example. This made me also feel that I stopped streaming for some time, because I didn't want to have a contact with those people, as I didn't know how to react and if I will make the situation worse. So how to keep an eye to, okay, we are like communicating with each other, but there is a point where you need to also take care of yourself, and also to communicate that we can talk about some stuff, but some other stuff like needs to be really personal for yourself.
And that's hard. I'm really sorry that happened, because that is hard. But those boundaries, because when you come first, your mental health and safety comes first and foremost. And by you setting that boundary, it has to be a hard boundary of, look, I'm uncomfortable talking about these things with you, and I won't. That's a boundary you can absolutely set. You can't say no to these folks, because they don't deserve or have the right to access you in that way. They don't. And so what I would like to empower you to do is, when you set those boundaries, you put them out there and you let your moderators know too. You don't need to talk to me in a Discord DM. You talk to me when I'm on stream. That's the baseline, you know, to protect yourself. And I can understand how that could be hard, because people do get too comfortable sometimes. But you have to be the one to kind of put up the wall to protect yourself from those things happening. Because trauma dumping and those parasocial relationships that people start to form in their lives, it's hard to navigate. But you have to be the one to say no. Yeah, so I've seen it a lot actually, where there are people who have a mental health command in their chat that will bring up resources for folks if they need them. And I actually have one of those myself, where if somebody is coming in the chat and is saying things that concern us a bit, we absolutely have that command that we throw up, and that's what we suggest, because we're not therapists, we're not professionals.
Yeah, not therapists.
And so you can only do what you can do, honestly.
And to that point, so there's more or less a line you can use so that you don't feel that you're being too abrasive or kind of shutting them down when they may be in a place of need and seeking out help, is saying something like, hey, you know, I'm not a professional, and I want to make sure that you have access to the help that you may need. And then whether it's a link, right, for mental health, whatever it might be, it's a way to redirect them and in a nice, comfortable way, effectively say, hey, I would love to help you, I'm not the right person. You should find someone who can get you what you need. Here is some additional info. And that can hopefully put a stop to that conversation and redirect them in a manner where you're still trying to help them, but you're setting up those boundaries for yourself in a healthy way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I think that's all the time we got. Unless you, okay, yeah, that's all the time we got. So, hey, thank y'all so much for coming and listening and hanging out with us. I appreciate you.